This is a message from a viewer named Ellis, and when I read it, I had to put my phone down and walk away. It's not your typical lost everything to a bar girl story. It's worse. Because Ellis wasn't some lonely tourist looking for paid company. He was a successful married man who threw away everything for what he thought was real love. What you're about to hear might make you angry, sad, maybe even a little scared. Because if this could happen to Ellis Reynolds, a 48-year-old insurance broker from Boise with a good head on his shoulders, then honestly, it could happen to anyone. My name is Ellis Reynolds, and I need to tell you about the worst mistake of my life. But before you judge how far I fell, you need to understand where my head was when it all started. Too ashamed to share. Picture this: Boise, Idaho, 2022. I'm 48 years old, married to Linda for 22 years. 2 kids, Julia, 17, and Michael, 15. On paper, I had everything. I owned a successful insurance brokerage, made 6 figures, lived in a nice house in Scottsdale with a pool and a 3-car garage. The American dream, right? But I was dying inside. Every morning was the same. Wake up at 6:30, shower while Linda got the kids ready for school. We'd exchange maybe 10 words over coffee logistics about who's picking up who, what bills need paying, whether the pool guy came. I'd drive to the office listening to the same talk radio shows, deal with the same clients worried about the same policies, drive home to the same dinner conversations about homework and weekend plans. Linda and I had become roommates. When was the last time we laughed together? Really laughed? When was the last time she looked at me like I was interesting, like I was more than just the guy who paid the mortgage? We slept in the same bed but lived in different worlds. I'm not making excuses for what I did. I'm just trying to help you understand how a man can convince himself that throwing away everything he's built is somehow logical. The kids were busy with their own lives, Julia with college prep and her boyfriend Michael with basketball and video games. I felt invisible in my own house, successful but empty, financially secure but emotionally bankrupt. That's when I got the message that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in March 2022. I was scrolling through Facebook during lunch, mindlessly clicking through posts about people's vacations and political rants when I got a friend request from someone named Suda Charonsuk. Her profile picture stopped me cold. This absolutely stunning Thai woman, maybe late 20s, with the most genuine smile I'd seen in years. She wasn't posing like an Instagram model, just a natural, beautiful woman sitting by what looked like a temple, wearing a simple blue dress. I almost declined it. I mean, random friend request from a woman in Thailand? Red flag city, right? But something made me click on her profile first. This wasn't some obvious scammer account. She had hundreds of photos going back years. Pictures with family, at work. She appeared to be some kind of hotel MSUD in Chiang Mai. Photos of her with a young daughter, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Normal life stuff. Beach trips, birthday parties, temple visits. And her About section said she was looking to practice her English and learn about American culture. So I accepted. What's the harm, right? Within an hour, I had a message. Hello, Ellis. Thank you for accepting my friend request. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I saw you live in Arizona, and I've always dreamed of visiting the American Southwest. Is it really as beautiful as it looks in movies? We started chatting. Just friendly conversation at first. She told me she worked at a boutique hotel in Chiang Mai, that she was a single mother trying to give her daughter a better life. She asked about Arizona, about my work, about American culture. I found myself looking forward to her messages. Suda was curious about everything. How did American insurance work? What was it like raising teenagers? What did I do for fun? Simple questions, but they made me feel interesting again, like I had stories worth telling. After a week of daily messages, she sent me her WhatsApp number. It's easier to chat here, she said, and maybe we can video call sometime. I'd love to practice my English with a native speaker. That first video call lasted 3 hours. She was even more beautiful on camera, sitting in what looked like a modest apartment with traditional Thai decorations in the background. Her English was good, but charmingly imperfect. She'd pause to think of words, apologize for her pronunciation, laugh at her mistakes, but it wasn't just her looks. She was genuinely interested in me. She asked about my day, my dreams, my frustrations. When I mentioned feeling stuck in routine, she said, "But Ellis, you have built something amazing. You should be proud. Not many people can create success like you have." When was the last time Linda had said something like that? Over the next 3 months, Sudha and I talked every single day. It started with good morning messages and evolved into hours-long conversations that stretched deep into the night. She told me about her struggles, how her ex-boyfriend had left when their daughter was born, refusing to take responsibility, how she worked long hours at the hotel but still struggled to make ends meet, how her mother was sick and needed expensive medication they couldn't afford, how she dreamed of giving her daughter opportunities she never had, but she never asked for money, not directly. She'd just share her struggles, and I'd find myself wanting to help. The emotional intimacy was intoxicating. We talked about everything: childhood memories, fears, dreams, philosophy, what we wanted from life. She'd send me photos of her day, making breakfast for her daughter, walking through local markets, beautiful sunsets from her balcony. I started sending photos too. My office, Arizona landscapes, pictures from business trips. For the first time in years, I was seeing my own life through someone else's eyes, someone who found it interesting. The conversations became increasingly intimate. She'd call me late at night Boise time, which was morning for her. I'd sneak out to the garage or my home office, heart racing like a teenager. "I feel so connected to you, Ellis," she told me one night. "Is that crazy? We've never met, but I feel like you understand me better than anyone ever has." I felt the same way. This beautiful, sweet woman on the other side of the world was everything Linda wasn't. Interested in me, appreciative, affectionate. She'd tell me I was handsome, that I sounded successful and confident, that she felt lucky to know me. My marriage became unbearable by comparison. Every conversation with Linda felt shallow. Every interaction felt like we were just going through the motions. I'd sit at dinner, listening to her talk about her book club or her mother's health problems, thinking about Sudha. That's when I sent the first money transfer. Sudha had mentioned that her daughter needed school supplies and new shoes, but money was tight that month. She wasn't asking, just sharing her worry like she shared everything else. I sent $200 through Western Union. "Ellis, you don't have to do this," she messaged when she received it. "You are too kind. My daughter will be so happy." The photo she sent of her little girl in new school shoes made me feel more needed than I had in years. But it was a slippery slope. A week later, her mother needed medication minus $300. The next month, her motorcycle broke down and she couldn't get to work without it minus $500. Each time she'd be reluctant to accept, grateful to tears, promising to pay me back someday. I wasn't keeping track of the amounts. It felt good to be needed, to make a real difference in someone's life. Linda never needed me for anything emotional or financial. She had her own job, her own friends, her own perfectly organized life. After 4 months of daily communication, Sudha dropped the bomb that changed everything. "Ellis, I need to tell you something, and I'm scared you'll think differently of me," she said during one of our late-night video calls. "I think I'm falling in love with you. Is that crazy? We've never met, but you've become the most important person in my life." My heart stopped. This beautiful, sweet woman loved me. Me. Not my bank account, not my stability, not what I could provide, but me, Ellis Reynolds, the man I thought had become invisible. "I love you too, Sudha," I heard myself say. And I meant it. Our relationship shifted after we admitted our feelings. The conversations became more romantic, more intense. We'd video call for hours, falling asleep with our phones next to us so we could see each other sleeping. We made plans for me to visit Thailand. We talked about our future together. But there was a problem, and Sudha finally brought it up 6 months into our relationship. "Ellis, I've been offered a position at a resort in Bangkok," she told me, tears in her eyes. "It's a good job, much better pay, but it would mean moving away from Chiang Mai, away from everything I know, and Bangkok is so far from you. My stomach dropped. Can you turn it down? I don't know how. They've been very generous with the offer, but Ellis, if I take this job, I'll be working 7 days a week. I won't have time for us anymore. I won't be able to talk to you every day like we do now. She was crying harder now. I don't want to lose what we have. You're the best thing in my life. But I have to think about my daughter's future too. How much would you need to turn it down? I asked. Ellis, no. I can't ask you for that kind of money. How much, Suda? $15,000. That's what I would make in the first year in Bangkok. If I had that saved, I could afford to stay in Chiang Mai and look for something better. $15,000 was my entire savings account. But what was money compared to love? Real love? For the first time in my adult life? I transferred the money the next day. Suda was overwhelmed with gratitude. You saved our relationship? She cried. I promise I'll make this up to you. When you come to Thailand, I'll show you how grateful I am every day. But the Bangkok job situation brought up a bigger issue, one that had been eating at both of us. Ellis, she said a few weeks later, I need to be honest about something. I can't continue this relationship knowing you're married. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, like I'm a bad person. My chest tightened. Suda, you know my marriage is over in everything but name. But it's not over officially. You still live with her. You still sleep in the same house. How can I plan a future with you when you're still committed to someone else? She was right, and I knew it. My marriage to Linda was dead, had been dead for years. We were just two people sharing expenses and child-rearing duties. But divorce seemed so final, so complicated, so expensive. If you really love me, Suda continued, if you really want a future with us, you need to choose. I can't be the other woman anymore. It's destroying me. The ultimatum was clear. Divorce Linda or lose Suda forever. Looking back, I can see how perfectly she played this. Never demanding directly, just expressing her feelings, her moral discomfort, her need for a real commitment. Making me feel like the divorce was my idea, my choice, my romantic gesture. I chose Suda. Telling Linda I wanted a divorce was the hardest conversation of my life, but not for the reasons you might think. It wasn't hard because I still loved her. That ship had sailed years ago. It was hard because I knew I was about to destroy everything we'd built together. I'm not happy, Linda, I said over dinner one night after the kids had gone upstairs. I haven't been happy for a long time. I think we need to talk about separation. She put down her fork and stared at me. Are you having an affair? The directness of the question caught me off guard. I've met someone, I admitted, but this isn't about her, this is about us. We're not happy together. Who is she? I could have lied, should have lied, but I was so far gone, so convinced that Suda and I had something special, that I told her the truth. Her name is Suda. She lives in Thailand. We met online. Linda's face went through about 5 different emotions in 10 seconds. Confusion, hurt, anger, disgust, and finally, something that looked like pity. Ellis, are you insane? You want to divorce me for some woman you've never met who lives on the other side of the world? You don't understand what we have? I said, immediately defensive. This isn't some casual thing. We talk every day. We love each other. She's everything you're not. That was cruel, and I knew it the moment I said it, but I was past caring about Linda's feelings. I was in love, real love, for the first time in decades. The next few months were hell. Linda fought the divorce, not because she wanted to save our marriage, but because she thought I'd lost my mind and was making a terrible mistake. She was right, of course, but I couldn't see it then. The kids were devastated. Julia cried and begged me to reconsider. Michael stopped talking to me altogether. I'd show them pictures of Suda, try to explain that sometimes adults fall in love and have to make difficult choices, but they just saw their father abandoning them for a stranger. My brother flew in from Seattle to stage what he called an intervention. Dave, what the hell are you doing? He said. You're going to throw away 22 years of marriage for some woman you met on Facebook? Do you hear yourself? I showed him Sudha's photos, told him about our connection, tried to make him understand. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. She's beautiful, I'll give you that, he said. But Dave, come on. You're smarter than this. This has scam written all over it. Everyone thought they knew better than me. My friends, my family, even my business partner. They all tried to talk sense into me, but I knew something they didn't. I knew Sudha. I knew what we had was real. The divorce proceedings dragged on for months. Linda wanted half of everything, including the business. By the time it was finalized, I'd paid $40,000 in legal fees and lost half my assets. But I didn't care. I was free. I sold my share of the insurance business to my partner for $120,000. Combined with my half of the house sale and what was left in my accounts after the divorce, I had about $180,000 in cash. A small fortune, enough to start a new life in Thailand with the woman I loved. Sudha was supportive through the entire ordeal. She listened to me vent about lawyers and custody arrangements. She comforted me when I felt guilty about hurting my kids. She reminded me that sometimes you have to be brave to find real happiness. I'm so proud of you, she told me. I know this is hard, but you're choosing love over convenience. You're choosing a real life over just existing. After the divorce was finalized, we started making concrete plans for me to move to Thailand. I'd get a tourist visa first, then figure out the longer-term visa situation. We'd find a place together in Chiang Mai. Maybe I could start a small business, or teach English, or do consulting work online. I can't wait to hold you, she'd whisper during our video calls. I can't wait to wake up next to you every morning instead of just talking through a screen. I booked my flight for January 2023. 3 weeks in Thailand to see if our online love could translate to real life. If it went well, I'd come back to Boise, pack up everything, and move permanently. As the plane took off from Boise Sky Harbor, I felt like I was finally living instead of just existing. I was 48 years old, single, financially independent, and flying toward the love of my life. I should have been terrified. Instead, I'd never felt more alive. The moment I saw Sudha waiting for me in the arrivals area at Chiang Mai Airport, I knew I'd made the right decision. She was even more beautiful in person, petite, graceful, with that same genuine smile that had captivated me online. When she hugged me, everything felt right. "Welcome to Thailand," she whispered in my ear. "Welcome home." The first week was everything I dreamed of. Sudha had taken time off work to spend with me, and we were inseparable. She showed me around Chiang Mai, ancient temples, bustling night markets, hidden restaurants that served the most incredible food I'd ever tasted. Everything felt new and exciting. But it was the intimacy that really convinced me I'd found my soulmate. The chemistry we'd felt over video calls translated perfectly to real life. She was affectionate, attentive, always reaching for my hand or resting her head on my shoulder. The sex was incredible, passionate but tender, like she couldn't get enough of me. We stayed at a beautiful resort outside the city that cost $200 a night, but I didn't care about the money. This was our honeymoon, our chance to finally be together without screens between us. Sudha introduced me to her daughter Nam, a sweet 6-year-old who was shy at first but warmed up to me quickly. We went to an amusement park together, and Nam called me Uncle Ellis by the end of the day. Seeing Sudha with her daughter, seeing how hard she worked to be a good mother, made me love her even more. On day 5, she took me to meet her family. Her mother, a tiny woman in her 60s who spoke no English but smiled constantly and kept putting more food on my plate. Her younger brother, who worked construction and was studying English in hopes of finding better work. Her aunt and uncle, who ran a small shop and were curious about America. They welcomed me like family. Sudha translated as they asked about my life, my work, my plans. When I told them I was considering moving to Thailand permanently to be with Sudha, they were thrilled. "They say you are a good man?" Sudha translated. They can see you make me happy. But it was during the second week that I started to see the financial reality of Sudha's life. Her mother's medication was expensive, and they were behind on payments. Her brother had been injured at work and couldn't afford proper medical care. The family shop was struggling and might have to close. I wanted to help. These weren't strangers asking for handouts. They were going to be my family. When Sudha's mother needed $800 for her heart medication, I paid for it gladly. When her brother needed $1,200 for surgery on his injured back, I covered it without question. "You don't have to do this," Sudha kept saying. "This is too much." But I wanted to do it. I wanted to be the American who saved the day, who made everything better. I wanted them to see me as a provider, a protector, someone worthy of their daughter and sister. By the end of the second week, I'd spent about $15,000 between the resort, dinners, family medical bills, and gifts. But I was happier than I'd been in years. This was what life was supposed to feel like: connected, meaningful, full of love and purpose. That's when Sudha's ex-boyfriend entered the picture. It started with Sudha becoming distant during our third week. She'd check her phone constantly, step away to take calls, seem distracted during our conversations. When I asked what was wrong, she'd force a smile and say everything was fine, but I could tell it wasn't fine. Finally, on our second to last night together, she broke down crying. "Ellis, I need to tell you something, and I'm scared you'll think differently of me," she sobbed. "Chai Nam's father, he's been calling me. He knows about you, about us, and he's angry." My blood ran cold. "What does he want?" "Money. He says if I don't pay him, he'll take Nam away from me. He has rights as her father, and he knows people in the courts. He says no judge will let a foreign man raise a Thai child." The threat was clear: pay up or lose both Sudha and her daughter. "How much does he want?" I asked. $50,000, she whispered. "He says that's how much it will cost for him to disappear forever and sign away his parental rights." $50,000. It was more than a quarter of everything I had left, but what choice did I have? I couldn't lose Sudha now, not when we were so close to building a life together. I transferred the money the next morning. Sudha was overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. "You saved us?" she said, kissing me frantically. "You saved my daughter. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you." But the relief was short-lived. 2 days after I returned to Boise, Sudha called me in tears again. "Ellis, something terrible has happened. My mother collapsed and had to be rushed to the hospital. The doctors say she needs emergency surgery, but it's not covered by her insurance. If we don't pay, she could die. The surgery would cost $30,000. Between the ex-boyfriend payoff and this medical emergency, I'd be down to about $100,000. But what was I supposed to do? Let the woman I loved watch her mother die? I sent the money. That's when the requests started coming more frequently. Sudha's brother needed money for his business. Her aunt's shop was being foreclosed on. Nam needed expensive tutoring to get into a good school. Each crisis was urgent, each amount was significant, and each time Sudha was reluctant to ask but desperate for help. By September 2023, I'd sent her nearly $90,000 total. I was down to my last $30,000, but I told myself it was an investment in our future. Once I moved to Thailand permanently, we'd be living together and I could monitor our finances more carefully. The red flags were everywhere, but I ignored them all. Why was there always another crisis? Why did her family have so many expensive emergencies? Why had I never actually seen any medical bills or legal documents? But I was in too deep to ask those questions. I'd burned every bridge in Boise, alienated my children, destroyed my marriage, spent my life savings. If Sudha wasn't real, if this love wasn't real, then I'd lost everything for nothing. So I kept believing. I kept sending money. I kept planning our future together. I booked another trip to Thailand for November 2023. This time, I was bringing everything I owned. Whatever didn't fit in my suitcases, I was leaving behind. This wasn't a visit. This was my permanent move to start a new life with the woman I loved. I had $18,000 in cash, which would be enough to get us started while I figured out work and visa issues. It wasn't much, but we'd manage. Love would find a way. The flight to Bangkok felt different this time. Not exciting like the first trip, but desperate. I was betting everything on this relationship working out, because I had nothing left to go back to. I should have trusted my gut when Sudha wasn't at the airport to meet me. She texted me while I was waiting in the arrivals area. "Ellis, so sorry. Traffic terrible. Meet me at hotel. Room 412 at Royal Princess already checked in for you. Can't wait to hold you." The Royal Princess was a nice hotel in downtown Bangkok, much fancier than I'd expected. When I got to room 412, Sudha was waiting with champagne and rose petals on the bed. "Welcome home, my love," she said, throwing her arms around me. "I've missed you so much. That first night was incredible. It was like our honeymoon all over again. Passionate, romantic, full of promises about our future together. We made love until dawn, and I fell asleep holding her, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. I woke up around noon to an empty room. At first I wasn't worried. Sudha had probably gone to get us lunch, or maybe she had some errands to run. But as the hours passed and she didn't return, anxiety started creeping in. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I texted her dozens of times with no response. By evening, I was panicking. That's when I noticed my laptop was gone. I'd left it on the desk when we went to bed, but now it wasn't there. My stomach dropped as I started checking for other missing items. My backup credit cards, gone from my wallet. The emergency cash I'd hidden in my luggage, gone. My passport, gone from the hotel safe that only I knew the combination to. But Sudha knew the combination. I'd opened it in front of her the night before to show her how much cash I'd brought, joking that it was our nest egg to start our new life together. I called the front desk in a panic. "My girlfriend is missing, and several of my belongings have been stolen from the room." "Sir, what girlfriend?" the desk clerk asked. "You checked in alone yesterday. Our records show only one guest in that room." "No, that's impossible. She was here when I arrived. She had a key to the room." "Sir, I was working yesterday when you checked in. You were alone. Are you feeling all right?" I ran down to the lobby and demanded to see the security footage. The manager, looking at me like I was insane, showed me the tape of myself checking in alone, riding the elevator alone, entering the room alone, but I knew Sudha had been there. We'd spent the night together, we'd made love, we'd talked about the future. It was impossible that I'd imagined it all, unless I called her number again. This time, instead of voicemail, I got a message saying the number had been disconnected. I tried to access her Facebook profile. It was gone. Her WhatsApp account, deleted. Every trace of Sudha Charoensuk had vanished from the internet. I sat in that hotel room for 3 days, trying to piece together what had happened. Had I been drugged? Had I imagined the entire night? Was I having some kind of mental breakdown? The truth was simpler and more devastating. I'd been conned by a professional. When I finally accepted reality, I had $300 in cash, no credit cards, no passport, and no way to get home. I had to call the U.S. Embassy to report my stolen passport, and the humiliation of explaining my situation to government officials was almost unbearable. But the worst call was the one I had to make to Linda. "Ellis, why are you calling me from a Bangkok number?" "Linda, I need help," I said, my voice cracking. "I need you to wire me money for a plane ticket home." "What happened to your Thai girlfriend? Can't she help you?" The contempt in her voice was deserved, but it still cut deep. "She's gone. She took everything. I've been robbed." There was a long pause. "How much do you need?" $2,000. For the ticket and to survive until I can get home." Jesus, Ellis, what did you do? I couldn't tell her the whole truth over the phone. It was too pathetic, too unbelievable. "I'll explain when I get back. Please, Linda. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm stranded." She wired the money without another word. I bought a ticket on the next available flight and left Thailand with nothing but the clothes in my suitcase and the crushing realization that I'd destroyed my entire life for a lie. The flight back to Boise was the longest 20 hours of my life. I sat in that middle seat, surrounded by happy families heading home from vacation, trying to process the magnitude of my stupidity. Suda had never existed. At least, not the Suda I knew. The woman who'd shared her life with me for over a year, who'd told me she loved me, who'd made love to me in that hotel room, she was an actress playing a role. The photos, the family, the daughter, the ex-boyfriend, the medical emergencies, all of it fake, carefully constructed to extract every dollar I was willing to give. I'd read about romance scams before. I'd always thought I was too smart, too careful, too grounded to fall for something like that. But they'd played me perfectly, targeting my loneliness, my midlife dissatisfaction, my need to feel important and needed. Linda picked me up at the airport. The drive to her house, our old house that was now just hers, was silent except for my attempts to explain what had happened. "Ellis, I need you to understand something," she said as we pulled into the driveway. "I'm helping you because you're the father of my children, not because I feel sorry for you. You made your choice. You destroyed our family for this woman, and now you have to live with the consequences." She was right. I'd given up everything: my marriage, my relationship with my kids, my business, my home, my savings, for a fantasy. The kids wouldn't even look at me. Julia was away at college, but Michael was still at home, and the contempt in his 17-year-old eyes was devastating. I'd abandoned him for a woman who didn't exist. I had to start over from scratch at 49 years old. I found a studio apartment in a complex that catered to divorced men and people starting over, $800 a month for 400 square feet, and a kitchenette. I slept on an air mattress for the first 2 months. My old business partner let me come back as an MSUD, not a partner. I was making $45,000 a year doing the same job I used to own. The humiliation was constant. Clients who remembered me as the successful business owner now saw me as just another insurance salesman. The divorce had cost me another $40,000 in legal fees when all was said and done. Between the romance scam and the divorce, I'd lost over $200,000 in 22 years of marriage. But the money wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the isolation. Linda had told everyone what happened, and I couldn't blame her. Our mutual friends didn't know how to deal with me. Some were sympathetic, others were disgusted, but mostly they just avoided me altogether. My kids slowly started talking to me again, but it took months. Julia was hurt and angry that I'd chosen a stranger over our family. Michael was embarrassed to tell his friends what his dad had done. The trust we'd built over their entire lives was shattered. I started going to therapy, partly to deal with the depression, and partly to try to understand how I'd been so completely fooled, doctor. Martinez helped me see the psychological techniques that had been used against me: love bombing, creating false urgency, exploiting my need for validation, gradually escalating requests for money. Romance scammers are sophisticated psychological manipulators, she explained. They study their targets, find their vulnerabilities, and exploit them systematically. You weren't stupid, Ellis. You were lonely and targeted by professionals. But knowing I'd been professionally conned didn't make the shame any easier to bear. It took me 2 years to put the pieces together, but I finally understand what happened to me. And if my story can save even one person from making the same mistake, then maybe sharing this humiliation will be worth it. I found online forums dedicated to romance scam victims, and my story isn't unique. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of men who've been through similar experiences. The details change, but the pattern is always the same. The Suda I fell in love with was likely a composite character created by a team of scammers. The photos were probably stolen from a real Thai woman's social media accounts. The family members I met were actors. The daughter calling me Uncle Ellis was a performance. The woman who slept with me in that Bangkok hotel room wasn't even the same person I'd been video chatting with for over a year. She was just the final piece of the con. there to distract me while accomplices cleaned out my belongings. Professional romance scammers operate like businesses. They have teams of people playing different roles: the romantic interest, the family members, the crisis creators. They have databases of stolen photos and detailed backstories. They study their marks for months, learning their weaknesses and desires. They target middle-aged, divorced, or unhappily married men, specifically because we're emotionally vulnerable and financially stable. They know we're desperate for validation, for someone to make us feel young and desirable again. The gradual escalation of money requests is calculated. They start small to establish the pattern of helping, then create increasingly urgent emergencies that require larger amounts. By the time you're in deep, you're psychologically committed. You can't admit you've been fooled because that would mean accepting that you've lost everything for nothing. The isolation tactics are deliberate too. They encourage you to keep the relationship secret, to not tell friends and family who might voice concerns. They make you feel like no one else understands your connection, that your love is special and unique. And the final theft, the complete disappearance, that's designed to maximize psychological damage. Not only have you lost your money, but you can't even confront your abuser. They vanish completely, leaving you to question your own sanity and deal with the shame alone. I've learned that my $150,000 loss was actually relatively small compared to some victims. I've read stories of men who lost their entire retirement savings, their homes, their businesses. Some have taken out loans or mortgages to keep sending money to their imaginary girlfriends. The psychological damage is often worse than the financial loss. Many victims struggle with depression, anxiety, and trust issues for years afterward. Some never recover emotionally. But I'm one of the lucky ones, if you can call it luck. I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I have a relationship with my kids again, though it's different now. I'm dating someone local, a woman I met through friends, someone whose background I can verify and whose life I can see with my own eyes. I'll never be wealthy again. At 51, I don't have time to rebuild the kind of financial security I once had. But I've learned something valuable. Real love doesn't demand that you destroy your life to prove it. If you're watching this and thinking about someone you met online who lives far away, someone who makes you feel special and understood in ways your current life doesn't, please listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. First, if it seems too good to be true, it is. I thought I was special, that I'd found the one woman in the world who could see past my ordinary exterior to the interesting man underneath. But romance scammers are experts at making you feel chosen, unique, and special. That's their job. Second, real love doesn't create constant financial emergencies. Yes, life happens and people need help sometimes. But if your online girlfriend has a new crisis every month that requires your financial intervention, you're being played. Real relationships involve shared financial responsibility, not one-way money transfers. Third, trust your friends and family when they express concerns. I know it feels like they don't understand, like they're jealous or narrow-minded. But people who love you and know you in real life have perspective that you lose when you're emotionally invested in someone you've never actually met. Fourth, meet in person as soon as possible, and when you do, pay attention to inconsistencies. Does their life match what they've told you? Do their family and friends know about you? Can you verify their background through normal means? If they have reasons why you can't visit their hometown, meet their friends, or see their workplace, those are red flags. Finally, never send money to someone you haven't met, no matter how urgent their situation seems. I don't care if their mother is dying, their child needs surgery, or their ex-boyfriend is threatening them. If you've never met someone in person, you have no way to verify their claims. Real emergencies can wait a few weeks for you to visit and see the situation yourself. I know this advice sounds obvious when you're not emotionally invested. But when you're in love, when someone is telling you they need your help to survive, when they're crying on video calls and begging for your assistance, logic goes out the window. The truth is, I was vulnerable to this scam because my marriage was already over emotionally. I was desperate for connection, for someone to make me feel valuable and desired. If you're in a similar situation, fix your actual life instead of escaping into a fantasy online. Get marriage counseling. Get divorced if that's what it takes. Date locally. Join social groups. Find ways to feel fulfilled that don't involve sending money to strangers on the internet. And if you're already sending money to someone you met online, stop. Right now. Cut off contact completely. I know it feels like you'll lose the love of your life, but I promise you, the love of your life wouldn't ask you to choose between your family and them. The love of your life wouldn't create financial emergencies that only you can solve. The love of your life wouldn't disappear with your life savings. I lost $200,000, my marriage, my business, and nearly lost my relationship with my children for a woman who never existed. Don't be me. Don't let loneliness and the need for validation destroy everything you've built in the real world. 3 years later, I'm still rebuilding. But I'm building something real this time, based on actual relationships with actual people I can see and touch and verify. It's harder than fantasy, but it's worth it. My name is Ellis Reynolds, and this is my warning to you. Learn from my mistake, because the cost of this particular education is too high for anyone to pay. 2 months after I published this story, I got an email from a man in Australia who said my experience had convinced him to stop sending money to a woman in the Philippines. He'd already sent $30,000 but hadn't yet destroyed his marriage. My humiliation saved his life. That email made everything worth it. I also heard from other victims. Men who'd lost even more than I had. Men who were still in the middle of their scams and didn't know how to get out. There's a whole community of us now, supporting each other and trying to warn others. The woman who stole my money is probably running the same scam on other lonely men right now. She's probably using different photos, a different name, a different backstory, but the same emotional manipulation techniques. That thought keeps me up some nights. But I can't change what happened to me. I can only control what I do with the experience. If my story saves one marriage, prevents one financial catastrophe, or helps one man see the red flags before it's too late, then maybe some good can come from the worst mistake of my life. Don't be Ellis Reynolds. Don't let someone who doesn't exist destroy everything that does. Trust me, the real world, as complicated and imperfect as it is so much better than any fantasy you can buy online.